Hello everyone, welcome to my video. Today, we will look at factors that affect language learning. In an article that I have reviewed for this topic, the researcher mentioned that there are 7 factors that affect language learning. Understanding these factors is crucial because as teachers or educators, the background knowledge about certain factors is important to understand our learners. The 7 factors are: first, the effects of age; second, culture factor; third, gender factor; fourth, anxiety factor; fifth, native language; sixth, amount of exposure; and seventh, motivation. We will look at each factors in detail. Let's look at the effects of age. Psycholinguistic studies believe that the learner's ages are significant when learning a language is concerned. They believe that the brain of a child is like a sponge, which can absorb multitudes of information, particularly when learning a language. They claim that in order to master language, one should begin at an early stage. The younger, the better. However, when one learner does not continuously learn the language, he or she will not be able to speak the target language as native speaker. Yet, others believe that learning the target language at an early age helps the child with pronouncing the words accurately. Moving on, we will look at culture factor. Someone said, I quote, "There's no better way to learn a language than by immersing yourself in a culture where it is spoken, and there's no better way to immerse yourself in a culture than by learning to speak the local language." Unquote. With the statement said earlier, it is undeniable that culture plays an important role in learning a language. Researchers claim that learning a language is not only for communication purposes, but also the implementation of the culture. That explains why, in many institutions, there would be an international day where people or speakers of other countries would introduce their unique culture and their beautiful language to those around them. Due to the importance of the connection between a language and a culture, that explains why, when learners learn the culture of the target language or any foreign language, they will be able to comprehend the language effectively. Learners' background knowledge is significant in understanding a language. So teachers, bring that vibrant culture into your classroom to aid the teaching of language learning. Next, we will look at gender factor, male versus female, and boys versus girls. Gender factor is inevitable when learning a language. When learning a foreign language, consequence of learning could differ. This is due to gender differences as claimed by King Macquarie 2007. In general, girls are claimed to comprehend the language better than boys, and girls could use the language much earlier. If compared to boys, this also comes down to the fact that girls grow up quickly as to boys, and this also could explain why girls normally dominate most conversations. So, that is why many researchers concluded that girls fare better in learning a foreign language. Moving on, we will look at anxiety factor. This factor affects almost all levels of language learners. It is related to how one feels when learning a foreign language. Anxiety normally affects one in terms of speaking skills. This happens when confronted to be engaged in a conversation where learners of the foreign language or target language tend to be silent in the beginning of the process, and later, at this stage, the learner is probably telling him or herself to be calm and confident to engage in the conversation. They will only start talking when they have overcome their anxiety. However, some learners are found to unable to overcome this factor and may have just stopped from learning the language because they feel unsuccessful. Next, we will look at the fifth factor, which is the native language. Native language factors affect the learning of a foreign language, especially in terms of pronunciation. For example, when a Korean wants to learn English, they will find it difficult to enunciate words correctly due to the differences in consonants and vowels. That explains why it is a major task for Korean students to gain familiarity with English stress and rhythm. So when one wants to learn a foreign language, they should consider the similarities and differences between the first language and the second language that would affect the learning process. Next, we will look at the amount of exposure. When learning a foreign language, this factor is important, but the question is how much of exposure is considered enough to learn a foreign language? Many claim that the more exposure a learner have with regard to the language learning, the better it is, especially where pronunciation is concerned. That is why language teachers are encouraged to use the target language in the classroom, especially when they are the only source of exposure that the students have. Lastly, we will look at motivation. Motivation is another factor that affects one positively or negatively. It involves intrinsic motivation, which is about the things that happens that affects the learner, and intrinsic motivation, which is about a person's feelings and emotions. Motivation also plays another important role in the language learning. As a conclusion, language teachers should be aware of all these factors to help and guide the target language learners or foreign language learners in order to make learning a foreign language or the target language successful. That is all from me, and I hope with all this information, it will be of use to each and every one of you who are out there listening to my voice and reading the slides at the same time. With that, I would like to thank you, and this is the end of my video. Bye!